Okay, well, welcome back. If you've been with us in the first session today, day 2 of Sparkling Wine Week, where we are looking at the sparkling wine competitions that around the world, specifically to 50 great sparkling wines of the world and 50 great cavers. We organise them. Okay, so so live interviews. We've got 2 fantastic sparkling wine producers. We've got one from Spain and one from Italy, and to finish up the Sparkling Wine Week. Just to those of you who are new to the program, just on your right, you have a place where you can say hello. So hello again, Gertrude from Belgium. Hello, Robin, Las Vegas. Hello, Luca from Italy. Jessica, Barcelona, I believe, journalist. And so just another one from Belgium, New York City. Hey there, Tomohiro. He's a regular. Hope the Japanese restaurants in New York are back open again. Right, so let's introduce our 2 producers today. We've got Pamela from Loban Wines. Hello, Pamela.
Hi there, how are you doing?
And we've got Gianluca from Piemonte. Hi, Gianluca.
Ciao a tutti. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good to use the native language there. Okay, so we're going to start with Pamela. Pamela. So you're probably the only sparkling wine producer in Spain producing sparkling red wine. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself, how the project came about, how the names came about, and a little bit about the philosophy behind the winemaking.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anthony. Well, I'm delighted to be here at Sparkling Wine Week yet again. I did try to be there yesterday, but something seemed to go wrong with the connection. So I did sit talking to my own computer for about 20 minutes. I hope what I say today is as interesting as it seemed to me to be yesterday. Anyway, by the time I've been introduced and said a few words, most people suddenly think, wait a minute, she's not Spanish. That sounds like a Scottish accent. And yes, it is Scottish accent. I am Scottish. I studied microbiology at Strathclyde University a long time ago. And after a project in a hospital for a couple of years, looking at not very nice specimens, I changed over to whiskey. A lot more pleasant to be studying. So I worked in whiskey for a good few number of years, and I did an MSc by research on the flavour of Scotch whiskey affected by lactobacillus. Anyway, during that time in Edinburgh, the Pentland Scotch Whisky Research, I went on holiday to Barcelona. And I absolutely fell in love with Barcelona, and I thought, this is where I would like to live. So I thought, oh, well, I could just change from whiskey to wine. Only 2 drawbacks. I didn't really know anything about winemaking, and I also didn't speak any Spanish. So I thought, let's do this one by one. Let's try and learn winemaking in an English-speaking country. I sent off a couple of letters to California and came back, no deal because of green card problems. I sent 1 letter to Australia, to Penfolds, and as luck, fate, or destiny would have it, the day it landed on the production manager's desk, their microbiologist said that she would be leaving in a few months' time as she was pregnant. So that was me, off to Australia. I was at Penfolds in the Barossa Valley in the town of Nuri Utpa, and it was brilliant. Penfolds company, Penfolds Group at that point, made a huge range of styles, wine styles, everything from the most basic cask or bag and box wine, with or without a lot of sugar, right up to the top Australian classic Grange, or Grange Hermitage as it was known then, Grange. We made whites, we made reds, we made pinks, and there was I in the middle of it all in the production laboratory, tasting everything with the winemakers and really getting a good feel for it. But I also thought, well, I need to taste other wines apart from just Penfolds. So I joined a wine tasting class, wine course. And that was really good, looking at lovely Rieslings, lovely Semillons. And on their final week, the tutor said, well, next week it's going to be red champagne. And I thought, wait a minute, red champagne, what are they talking about? Anyway, that was the first time I tasted the beautiful black bubbles of sparkling Burgundy. And it was a Seppelt Great Western sparkling Burgundy. From that moment on, I was really a bit of an addict to the red bubbles. I was at Penfolds for a good couple of years, but then Barcelona called. Over I came to Europe and I worked 2 vintages with Torres, learning a lot of different winemaking here in Penedès area, and also learning Spanish. Although being in Catalonia, it was quite hard to learn Spanish. Anyway, I would ask people if there was any red cava, and they would just look at me in absolute shock and horror. I thought, am I saying something wrong? What is it? But no, it's just actually the concept they couldn't get their head around. So after doing my 2 vintages at Torres, I still hadn't found any permanent work, and a job offer came from Australia to be sparkling winemaker at Seppelt's Great Western, home of their lovely sparkling Shiraz I had first tasted in Nuriutva. Seppelt's had taken over Penfolds at that point, and they were consolidating all sparkling production on the Great Western site. And I was there as production sparkling winemaker. So, excuse me, I quite quickly learned from pumping bubbles into the cheapest wine, carbon dioxide, tank fermentations, bottle fermentation opened by the transfer method, true champenoise and true champenoise. We had 2 main brands which were separated by having the bacterial malolactic fermentation or not. The ones with the malolactic fermentation were bigger, richer, creamier wines, and this was very much the sea view style. And the ones with no malolactic fermentation at all were more elegant, more fruit driven, and one of them would have been our Salinger Pinot Noir Chardonnay. Obviously, there was the delight of working with red, some of the best Shiraz, in my opinion, in the world. And Seppelt's had a lot of history. Seppelt's was built in the 1850s by miners which had become unemployed from Ballarat. So they dug out tunnels for the sparkling wines. And those tunnels, or drives as they call them, still exist. Down in these dark drives were stored some of the best sparkling Shirazes from the 40s and the 50s. And I was trusted enough to have the key for this cellar. Privilege I never abused, but it was delightful when the chief sparkling winemaker would request a bottle of the 55 for us all to taste. So it was a great job, lots of work, learned a lot, but Barcelona was still calling me. So off I went again, middle of '96, and this time I started working as a contract winemaker. So base was Barcelona. I worked in Yecla in the south of Spain for vintage, and in Yecla, the biggest grape is Monastrell. So one day, pumping over a red tank, I started smelling some of the sparkling Shiraz flavors, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, maybe I could do a sparkling Monastrell. So I spoke to Ramon, the boss, and he was always keen to promote the variety. So we entered into a bit of a joint project. producing some sparkling red. This was all talked about in, I guess, end of 96 and beginning of 97. Off I went for a few months to Chile to start my career as a contract winemaker there. So when I came back from the first vintage in Chile, we tiraged, i.e. cleaned up the Monastrell I'd selected, put it into bottle. So that was in June 1996. While I'd been working in Chile, I was called La Pamelita. So I ended up putting the name La Pamelita to my first sparkling red, a sparkling Monastrell from Yecla. Because the winery where I was working didn't actually have I wondered what was happening there, didn't actually have any sparkling equipment. The winery bought some second-hand equipment from another winery, and we set up the champigel, the doser, everything we were doing hand by hand. So we had the tirage, the wine in the bottle fermentation had gone through that. We had to then get the yeast debris into the punto. So we did the remoulage in small shaking cradles. Then we neck freezed with the champigel, hand disgorged to get rid of the frozen yeast debris, bottle onto the dosification machine to put in the liqueur, and then cork, placa, and out the door, supposedly. So at this point, there were other people working on the line, and that was fine. We had a few problems, and I think sparkling red is something that's very personal to people, and very personal. I suppose I was very passionate about it and didn't want corners cut. So we ended up with a few fallouts, and eventually I knew I had to move from there. They also knew I had to move from there very quickly. So cut a long story short, I finally had my own little premise. To go back to one little bit, when we did the first bottling of the Monastrell, we applied for DO denomination of origin of cava. But DO cava said that cava cannot be red. So I thought, fine, it's a different product. I don't need to have that on my wine. Funny enough, Monastrell is a permitted variety of DO cava, but anyway. So my wine goes under the denomination de origen, the DO, Vino Espumoso de Calidad, quality sparkling wine. This signifies that the wine has been fermented in that bottle and has been on yeast lees for a minimum of 9 months. For a red wine, minimum of 24 months is best, and the longer, the better. Anyway, because we were DO Vino Espumoso de Calidad, I couldn't just take my wine from Yecla up to Penedès to a cava winery. I had to go to a winery with the same DO. So I finally managed to rent premises for a couple of years, but then I put down my own little sparkling facility. I believe I'm the smallest sparkling wine producer in Spain. Legal sparkling wine producer in Spain. There's a lot of people much smaller, but maybe more clandestino, making bottles for themselves and their families. So to qualify for this quality sparkling wine, you have to have 100 square meters, and I have 99.9. Anyway, that was me settled in this beautiful little winery in the little village of San Jaume ses Oliveres, just outside of San Sadurní d'Anoia, home of cava, and about 45 minutes from Barcelona. And there I do everything on my own. So I don't have any vineyards because really I believe that I'm looking for a style more than terroir. And I still work as a contract winemaker in different places. So the varieties I want to use for my products, which are 1 La Pamelita, a sparkling red, 2 La Rosita, a sparkling pink. I also do a sparkling white now, a dry red. I love Shiraz for the sparkling red, and great Shiraz is coming out of Calidad and Campo de Borja. Garnacha is for pink, beautifully fruit driven, as a rosé. If you work it well, you don't get too big a color, and lovely soft fruit flavors. And to me, again, for Garnacha, it's Calidad or Campo de Borja for me anytime. In the white I produce, I use the local Xarel·lo, grapefruit and quite nice mouthfeel. And I also do a dry red from Humillo, which shows Monastrell and Shiraz. So the first wine, as I say, I named after myself. The second wine, La Rosita, came into being round about the same time as my niece Rosie was born. So that became La Rosita. The sparkling white the still red that I produce is called El Gordito. Now, most people would know that Gordito means wee fat one, but it's actually my brother Gordon my brother is called Gordon, and I call him Gord, so Gordito. He's actually very thin. Gordito is my still wine. And the last one that I've made is the Babito Brut Xarel·lo. Babito is like babi, like baby. So that's for anyone else in the family that should have any more children. As I say, my philosophy is all about drinkability, about flavor profile. You get the fruit flavors right, you get the profile correct, you get that drinkability that makes someone want to sip that second glass. I was in a bit of a panic.
Pamela, yeah. So the two wines that are presenting as La Pamelita and La Rosita.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're running over.
Sorry.
Running over a bit.
Okay.
Is there anything you want specifically to say about those two sparkling wines and any export markets you're particularly interested in?
Well, I'll just say quickly, La Pamelita is Shiraz with a touch of Garnacha. Very mature wine. It's from the year 2010, but you would not believe it was that old. It soon will be changing on to one from 2017, but there's still some 2010 left. Very elegant, chocolatey, spicy. Great food wine, very good with spicy food, curries, chocolate. La Rosita is just summer freshness, a lovely pink color, soft creamy mousse, lovely little wild strawberries. I wish I could show you them in real life, but here we are in this virtual world, so you just have to take my word that the fruit flavors come through beautifully. La Rosita is more what you would have as an aperitivo maybe, although it does go well with fish dishes. So export, I currently export to a few countries, and I'm always looking for people that appreciate handcrafted wines. I don't have big volumes, so please don't send in an order for 20 pallets. It would take me far too long to get it ready, and that would be all my stock gone. Not quite, but no, it's something different. A nice addition to someone's portfolio. I know there's not a huge market for sparkling red, but most people should try it at least once in their life.
Okay, great. Let's bring, we've got some questions in for you, Pamela, but if we can save them to the end, and we could just bring Gianluca back to give his presentation and of two wines. And in the meantime, Pamela, you could have a look at the questions that are marked in red and have an answer ready later when we come back to you in about 10-15 minutes. So Gianluca, welcome from Piemonte. Is it you're talking to us from, is it? Okay, just switch your microphone on and just switch the microphone, the yellow button. It's off. Yes, that's it.
Sorry, I'm here. Yes, I'm.
That's okay. I do it myself.
Yeah, I'm definitely from here, based in Piemonte. As you told, my name is Gianluca Viberti. I'm owner and winemaker at the winery called 460 Casina Bric. Actually, the winery is based in Barolo and Serralunga d'Alba. The region is much more well known in the world for Great Barolo and even Barbaresco in the other side of the area. But I'm here today to talk about a project of Nebbiolo Sparkling, because there is a lot of things to talk about those two products. And my winery, 460 Casina Bric, it's today a leading company on this kind of production, beside of my Barolo single vineyard production. The winery has two blocks of vineyards. One that are based in Barolo for our Barolo wines and single vineyard wines. And the other block of vineyards are based in the Alba region. So the Alba region is the one in between the Barolo and Barbaresco in the Langhe Valley. Today I'm here because those two products I have here in the video are very old in its history. I mean, I'm talking about the appellation Nebbiolo d'Alba Spumante. So Nebbiolo Sparkling. Maybe you think that I'm wrong or I do something wrong, but actually this appellation was writing back on 1970. So this year, 2020, it's the 50th birthday of this appellation. The third one in Italy after Prosecco Corneliano Valdobbiadene, dating back on 1969, and the Franciacorta back in 67. So the Nebbiolo d'Alba Sparkling is the third one in terms of its history, but is even more with 200 years of history of production of this wine in Piemonte. Since, you know, when two winemakers from France, Louis Houdard and Bric, they moved in Italy and Piemonte for base their production of sparkling wines, and they start in doing this kind of sparkling production using Nebbiolo grapes. It looks strange, but the Nebbiolo, for the attitude of the grapes and the terroir and the climate condition we have, it's going to be really, really good wine for doing a sparkling rosé, only rosé. The appellation is only for rosé wine. And this appellation, Nebbiolo d'Alba Sparkling, it's the only one that allowed to us to declare in the label on the packaging presentation clearly Nebbiolo, because Nebbiolo it's a protected name. You are not allowed to produce VSQ, Vino Spumante di Qualità, generic, without appellation, and declaring on the label Nebbiolo. So it has to be under the DOC appellation. That means you have to own the vineyards in the production area of Nebbiolo d'Alba. We are producing actually two different products. The Cuvée 970, it's because I like to remember the 1970, the year when the appellation was writing on paper officially, and then it's a brut, Metodo Martinotti, and the other one it's Metodo Classico, traditional method, pas dosé, brut nature, millésimé, so vintage only. And at the moment, the production is based mainly in Magnum bottles, but we do have also bottles, because I believe for this kind of high-profile quality wine, the Magnum size is the best one. And of course, also for giving different opportunities of approaching those two wines with different price positioning and different taste, of course. The Cuvée 970, as you see the name, also the brand is Origo Genis. Origogenis it's a Latin name that means original. So everything that it's not a copy. I don't believe today in the wine business nobody looking for anymore for copies. So we want to be original. We want to produce something that is strictly connected with our territory, with our soil. Nebbiolo, it's a kind of grape that it's almost exclusively grow in Piemonte. It's not growing everywhere, such as other kind of varieties, such as Chardonnay, Pinot, etc. So the marketing point is really do not produce copies of something. Nebbiolo, 100% Nebbiolo, sparkling, rosé, it's something really, really unique. It's a niche of production. Even if we do have several hectares dedicated exclusively to this product, to those two different products. The Cuvée 70, we use the metodo Martinotti, or much well known as a Charmat. Because I'm from Piemonte, I like to remember the inventor of this method, Mr. Martinotti, that was a Piemontese man, and Mr. Charmat was the one who officially started to use the fermentation in the vat, in a stainless steel vat. So Martinotti, Martinotti lungo, so long stay on lease for a minimum of 8-12 months up to 18 months on lease. That allowed to us, to have a wine that is respectful of the freshness coming from the Nebbiolo, because producing sparkling wine and using Nebbiolo grapes is totally different story than using Pinot, Chardonnay, or other varieties for sparkling, specifically for sparkling wines, because Nebbiolo it is a grape with a high tannins content. So we are looking for a pretty perfect maturation point. We don't have even 1 gram of sugar here. It's a natural sugar because the grapes hand-picked are a maturation point of 1250 degrees of potential alcohol. They stay for a week in a 5 degrees temperature in a room with 5 degrees for a week, in order to have more extraction of the fruit from the skin, gently presses, and then there is the first fermentation at 16-17 degrees for like a month. And then for the Cuvée 970, the wine goes into the secondary fermentation with its own sugar on stainless steel vat at the minimum capacity of 80 hectoliter minimum. So we have several stainless steel barrels for that fermentation, because we need to keep on lease for several months. Different story for the Metodo Classico. The wine produced goes in a bottle for the tirage, normally in springtime of the next year. We are not keeping any wines from different vintages, because we like to declare the vintage on the label. As you see here, the current vintage release is 2014, and the Cuvée 970 is a non-vintage wine, just because keeping the wines from 12 to 18 months in different barrels allow to us to do a perfect blend in order to have a wine really fresh and fruity. I would say a wine for a nice aperitivo, lunchtime, and very easy drinking. The Nebbiolo Brut Nature, the Metodo Classico, it's a totally different story. It could be really easily paired to great champagne. In the blind testing, believe it or not, many consumer, distributors, importer, they are confused, and they were really surprised to see, when we open the bottle, that it's 100% Nebbiolo. we normally we are looking for distributors and partners, mainly in North of Europe and Asia, together with distributor in United States, but state distributors, because we are importing our wines ourselves in New Jersey, and we take care of the logistic of export from FOB Barolo to New Jersey platform. So in the case there are somebody interested in United States, some wines are already there sitting in the warehouse, in our warehouse in New Jersey. Just one more information about the logo 460 Casina Bric, where the number 460 is the meters of elevation where the vineyards are based, in between 400 and more than 500 meters high. Casina Bric is one of the oldest and highest property in the Barolo Valley, and where the altitude is so very important, particularly now, where we can see those climate change almost all over the world. Having vineyards on a quota of more than 400 meters, it's good to save the freshness, acidity, and not just producing alcohol, because wine is, for me as a winemaker, it's has to be a complex of many elements, not just alcohol, not just acidity, but I'm speaking about terroir, I'm speaking about aromas and flowers, vineyards, different altitude. And when you produce a wine 100% Nebbiolo, same thing as a Barolo, it's fairly important to have the right vineyards in the right places. And for those kind of lineup of wines, it's the same. I use the same technique in terms of looking for high quality grapes.
Okay, good. Interesting. The decision to do one Metodo Classico and the other Martinotti. Sorry. Why was that decision taken to do two different, working with the same grape but two different production methods?
As I told before, in order to have with the Martinotti wine, a wine that is much more fresh and fruity, easy drinking, with a price point totally different than the other ones, because with the Metodo Classico we normally do minimum 36 months up to 60 months on lease, so it's a long time to wait. The Martinotti allowed to us to have average every 2 years. I mean, every year is a production, but based on maximum 2 years in between, stay on lease and stay on the bottles before release the wine, having a wine that also the price point, considering that the vineyards in Barolo, in Nebbiolo d'Alba, they are very expensive. The value is so high, in order to protect also the price position on those wines, because we want to have two different kind of quality of wine, but also two different price.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Nelson asking if the wines are organic.
Yes, we work everything in organic. We not necessarily at the moment declare organic in the label. Consider that when I was studying winemaking school, I write a book dating back on 1989 about organic growing, and I got the first certification with my family before estate back in 1994, so a long time ago. Yeah, it's very, very important to work in what is called biological, I will call also logical farming, considering then the climate change. It's a big talk in our world, and managing the vineyards now is different than managing the vineyards 30 years ago. I remember, because I did this job all of my life. I was, grow in the vineyards with my foot on the ground since I was a kid, running in the vineyards, and I can tell, the climate change phase, all of us to different reality, and it's important to manage the vineyard differently today.
Yes, yes, same. What also, Nelson, is when you mentioned about the export markets you're interested in, is you didn't say Brazil. He's asking, have you any interest in the Brazilian market?
Yeah, we don't export anything in Brazil at the moment. So those brands are pretty new. We have a very good distribution in Italy now, and we don't have those wine particularly in different markets beside of some state in Canada, and as I told before, in the United States, because we do import ourselves in the United States. So we prefer to serve distributors state by state, FOB New Jersey, and then north of Europe, and of course the new open Asia market, China, Japan, and yeah.
Okay.
Brazil, yes, of course, we are wide open.
Okay. So let's bring Pamela back in. Has a couple of questions from Sane, if that pronunciation is correct. So asking is how long you can keep the red sparkling wines. Is this longer than a regular cavo? Does it get better with aging, as red wines do in a bottle?
Much. You can keep it much longer, either on lees or on its cork. They change a lot, but the carbon dioxide, the natural carbon dioxide, really acts as a preservative in the bottle, and the wine stays young for a long time. As I say, I've tasted wines from the 40s and the 50s, and although a lot of their characters have disappeared, they just are something quite special. Very balsamic, perhaps very slightly like cough mixture, but then I like cough mixture. Very interesting, and they keep for a long time. A cava, a kind of Grand Reserva cava at 7 years, you're chancing your luck. As I say, my current release, La Pamelita, has already had 9 years on yeast lees, but being kept on the yeast lees keeps it fresh as well.
Right. And Tomohiro is asking, how strong is the carbonation of the red sparkling you make?
Well, it's just really standard, about 4, well, I suppose average is 5.5 bars. And I try to do 6 bars in the bottle before disgorging, but because it's manual disgorging, I would say the end product's around about between 4.5 and 5.5 bars. So a normal, and it's a softer bubble. It's not a hard bubble, a softer mousse.
Okay, so let's bring everybody back. Gianluca and Pamela. So we're going to share the files. One for La Pamelita, so where you have the winery profile and the technical data sheets. There we go. There's the first one, and Casina Bric also going to share the winery profile and the technical data sheets, and you have the contact details are on both these files. So feel free to download and take those away. You can also get the same information off the winepleasure.com website, where of course you can request a meeting through the website directly to each producer and any of the producers that have been featured on the program today and yesterday. Right, so do you have any questions, last minute questions? So Luca, is that question for Pamela or for Gianluca? How long can those wines last after degorgement? Presumably, well, question for both of you. How long can your wines, Gianluca first, last after degorgement in terms of drinkability?
After degorgement, my Metodo Classico stay in the cellar 1 more year before be released. And in terms of drinkability, Nebbiolo is a good guarantee, for same as the Barolo, for a very long time. I bottle produced 10 years ago now, and they are perfect, really in a good shape, in a good mood, I can tell. And if the bottle are properly stored in a cellar, you can easily keep 15 years.
Okay, crikey. And Pamela, same question.
Well, the reds, I would agree, mine keep for a long time. As Gianluca said, it's obviously you have to have a good cellar. You don't want something exposed to high temperatures. With and I do like to have time on cork as well with the red before I release it. If possible, 2 months minimum, but 6 months better. Whereas La Rosita, the sparkling pink, I like it to go out recently disgorged and fresh. Rosita, I would give it maybe 4 to 5 years life. I do have some La Rosita from 2009 still on its lees, and that is beautiful. But that's still on lees, it hasn't been disgorged.
Okay, well, one question that's come in private. Yes, it says, so you're kind of similar in that you're working with red grape varieties. It's a question for Gianluca. Have you not considered making a red sparkling wine yourself?
I was going to ask him that. I put up my hand to come and try it with you.
Actually, I can tell that the appellation, now I'm speaking French. No, producing Nebbiolo red, it's today, so we are allowed to do that in red. Nobody's doing this because the point is that Nebbiolo, as I told before, has a high contents on tannins. So if you do even a short kind of maturation, the problem are those tannins, very strong. Producing rosé allowed to us to have a wine with a very good drinkability, because Nebbiolo is really, the tannins are a kind of limit. Otherwise, the taste become more bitter taste. And when you get the bitter taste, it's not anymore a pleasure for your palate, talking about sparkling Nebbiolo. And even if the maturation we use, as I told you, is not like a wine base of 10 degrees or 11 degrees and then adding sugar like in champagne. So there is no book around the world in talking about winemaking that nobody is obligated to use sugar for producing a sparkling wine. The point is, if you have enough maturation and sugar, natural sugar, why using other sugar? So much better to keep the grapes on the field until the maturation point is perfect and ripe enough, in order to escape this problem of tannins, too hard tannins on the wine.
Okay. So time's up. So if you're watching now, do feel free to contact the producers. If you're watching the replay, you can still also contact them. I think there's feedback on somebody's microphone coming through back through the webinar. So thank you to Pamela for joining us and showing us those incredible sparklers from the red grapes. And thank you to Gianluca for the Nebbiolo inspired sparkling wines on the program.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you both. And we look forward to hearing how many orders you get.
Okay, send them in.
Thank you. Grazie.
Bye.
Okay, and that's it. That's Sparkling Wine Week done. And the replays you can watch on the website, the winepleasures.com website. If you're watching this as a replay, then you can watch the other replays. And there's a lot of useful information. There's a lot of fantastic producers to discover. And of course, thank you to everybody who's watching now live. Tomohiro, Luca, Jessica, Luca, Elizabeth, can see quickly there on the chat. And of course, thank you you all that are watching this as a replay, be it near future, medium future, far future. All right, bye for now. See you on the next show, which is actually 9th of July, when we're looking at wine tourism, and the future of wine tourism in these challenging times. So if you want to find the link for that, I'm sure we'll send you one through the program. So until then, or until another webinar that we may come up with, Brazilian wine sounds good. We can get that one organized. We'll see you. Bye for now.